Here's a nice reading from the Bhagavatam that puts in front of us something that we know, but actually says it in a way that's very concise and very clear, and maybe a little bit helpful for working our way through it. Vidura says, "The true nature of God, as well as of man, is consciousness itself." So our nature, the nature of God is consciousness, and we being created in that image, or born of that image, also have consciousness as our nature, this awareness of awareness. We've talked about that before. Ramana Maharshi says that there are two things. There's awareness and the awareness of awareness. That awareness itself is the divine, that absolute unchanging. And the awareness of awareness is the devotee, you and I. I always like that thought. It makes it very interesting, kind of makes a lot of other thoughts sort of topple behind it. I like that when that begins to happen in spiritual life. I was puzzled as to why God remains forever free and is the ruler of the universe, whereas man finds himself bound, which is a good question. If we are in fact of the same nature as God, as the divine, how is it that God is ever free and ever pure, and we are ever bound and ever wretched, it seems? And he says here, "But now I understand that Maya is the servant of God." Okay, Maya is this world that we see. All that we've ever known is one without a second. We've only ever seen God. Anything else that we call it is Maya. It's our ignorance. It's our misunderstanding or superimposition of our own reality on the reality. So it's confusion. And we need to return to that state of knowing our nature, and by knowing that nature, we know the nature of all things. And you say, well, how is that? How is that possible? Well, see, everything that we learn in the world is related to ourself, right? That's our 0 point. Everything we measure from here, from me and mine. And if we have that measurement off, if we don't understand who me and mine is, if we have a wrong idea, namely that it's a body-mind and not an eternal, ever-present, omniscient self, then we get a complete misunderstanding of the world, and what we see and experience is called Maya. And what he's saying here is that God does very well because Maya is in his control. He's in charge. We suffer because Maya is in charge of us. And what does that mean? It means that when our desires arise, when the body asks for its things and the mind puts forward its moods, we're subject to them. We haven't learned to master them. You see, that's the very fundamental work of spiritual life, is mastering your mind, mastering your body, so that you are no longer subject to Maya, but Maya is subject to you. And that's where we find our peace, our inner equanimity. "But now I understand that Maya is the servant of God, where it is the master of man. Herein lies the explanation of man's misery and bondage. I also understand how ignorance, which is the cause of all of this apparent universe, itself is Maya." Yes, so this world seen in a way that is not true to its nature, interpreted through a wrong thinking center of being body-mind, creates Maya, creates an illusion. I always am reminded of the story of Galileo. You know, he's the one that said that the sun was the center of the solar system and not the earth. Originally, they thought earth was the center. And the problem with earth being the center, because you could say it's the center. I mean, as far as we know of centers of anything, call the earth the center. But the problem with doing that is that then all of the planets that circle the sun, now if you put the earth at the center instead of the sun, they all have these wonky orbits that kind of go in little loop-de-loops like that. And the mathematics of trying to figure out where a planet is going to be at any given time is almost impossible when you put the earth at the center. And see, that's what we've done in life. We've put ourself, our body and mind, at the center of our universe. And everything else now is wonky and confusing and very difficult to understand and painful to navigate. So when Galileo came along and said, "Hey, you dorks, The sun is the center. Well, when you did that, then suddenly all of these crazy, quirky orbits that had to be explained in huge amounts of mathematics were now simple ellipses and were very easy to calculate and to locate a planet at any given time. So the universe realigned, you see? So nothing actually changed in the universe. Nothing was actually different about the universe. But when we understand what the actual center of the solar system was, everything fell into place and became much easier. And so for us, when we come to realize our nature as consciousness itself, that we are unlimited, ever free, and ever pure, that the body and mind exist within us, and that we don't exist within it. Once we come to know that nature, nothing actually changes in the universe, but suddenly we understand something very different, and everything makes much more sense and is much more conducive to joy, to living rightly.